get to talk with Maeve Greyson, Marie Higgins, and Aviva Orr, and possibly Jenny Hartwell may join us. She's in someplace wonderful with dodgy internet, so we'll see if she has a chance to pop in. Ladies, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Well, thanks. Great to be here.
So we have 3 releases this week, and Marie wasn't able to join us a few weeks ago, so we're going to talk about her book as well. But the book I think I'd like to start with this week is the time travel book, which is Maeve's book, Loving Her Lonely Highlander, from the Time to Love the Highlander series. And I love that she gets mad, and that when she's mad and having a fit, that's when she ends up back in time.
She does. Lorna is she's known for her patience, but even a patient woman can only take so much of a man's stupidity. Just there's no other way to put it, because she's engaged to this fella, and he tells her, well, let's go to the cliffs, like you always want to go to the cliffs. You're always nagging me, take you to the cliffs so we can watch the aurora borealis, the northern lights. And it's in December, so it's cold, and it's on the northernmost tip of Scotland, so it's really cold. And so she knows, number one, this jerk hates the cold. Number two, he really doesn't care about doing anything that she enjoys, but she's silly enough to be engaged to him because she's always been drawn to like fixer-uppers, like, well, I'll save him from himself. Well, that never works.
We just need a PSA. We just need a PSA for young women that is just not a solid plan. That's just not.
If you don't like him the way he is, move on, because you cannot change them. But anyway, so she goes to the cliffs, and he gives her some rather, I'm not going to tell you what the news is. You gotta read the story, but it just infuriates her. And so she takes the ring and she just shoves it in his face, and then gets out of the car and stomps up. And she's just in such blind rage that she walks right off the edge of the cliff.
Oh, Lord.
Yes. Well, the northern lights at that moment, they flare up and they just surround her. And so, of course, the whole time she's falling, she's thinking, well, I've done it this time, and then she just figures, well, I just hope it's quick. I hope it doesn't hurt too bad. But then when she wakes up, she's alive. She's laying in the snow and the frozen grass, and she's all alone. And she thought, well, I knew he was a jerk, but I didn't think he would leave me here to just freeze to death. But then she notices things are the same, but not. And then this carriage comes along, an antique carriage in the middle of winter on the northern tip of Scotland. And she's figuring, why? It's ridiculous, but they give her a ride, and she tries to talk them into taking her into town. And but town isn't there. And where she finds out they're going is to the Laird of Caithness, and they're going to Gun Sinclair's castle, because the woman that she's riding with is his arranged marriage.
Oh,
yes,
that's better.
Yes, but she's a real witch.
Oh no!
Yeah,
you have to be, because otherwise we couldn't
because
throw.
Poor Gun. Gun is he is the tortured hero. I mean, he has been married twice. Both of his wives died. He's widowed twice. The first one died of a fever, and she left behind his daughter Arabella, and then the second one died like 5 or 6 years later while trying to give birth to his son, and the son died too. So Gunn has decided, he needs an heir, but he is not about to go through that kind of heartbreak again. So he wants a totally loveless union. It needs to be a transaction. Okay, we'll marry, you'll give me a son, and then, that's it. But Arabella is 9 years old now, his daughter.
Well, I imagine she has opinions about things.
She has opinions. And the child decides that no way is she going to let her father marry this witch. But this lady that the witch brought with her, this Lorna lady, is really nice because she takes up for all the kids that the witch mistreats and everything, and so she cons Lorna and says wants her to help her get rid of the witchy woman, and Lorna agrees. But what Lorna doesn't realize is that Arabella's not planning on ending the wedding. She's just wanting to switch the brides. So
That's some kind of freaky time travel Parent Trap stuff.
exactly. And of course there's deception going on, and there's things going on behind the scenes that not everyone's aware of. And there's even an attempted murder. Someone tries to kill Gunn.
Lord.
Yeah.
That's a lot. At least this
basically,
hero isn't dying right away, or
yeah,
within a
So
short period of
basically,
time.
both Gunn and Lorna are finished with love, but 9-year-old Arabella isn't finished with them. So, and that's how the story goes along.
Oh, well, that sounds like so much fun, and you gotta love a kid who's looking out for their best interest too.
Absolutely, she doesn't want the typical wicked stepmother, and she's not about to stand for it. So,
can't blame her. Oh, so much fun. So, I often wonder what it would be like how you find your way if you ended up in a different time. Like how would you
exactly.
like clothing, everything, like how would you
luckily Lorna is like an antique bookstore owner. She's got her own bookshop, and of course when there's no customers in, she reads all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the day that she goes back in time was for a promotional thing for the store. They had just had it renovated, so they decided to put on 17th Century Day. So everybody was dressed. Yes, everyone was dressed in period dress and everything. And and she rented costumes for everybody, and she was very proud of her costume because it was very authentic. And in fact, when she fell back in time and first met the first people that she came into contact with, she just figured it was actors or something coming to help celebrate the store. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the longer she's back in the past, the more she realizes something's just not adding up, because when she tries to give the coachman she calls it a tenner, a 10-pound note for taking her into town, it's a piece of paper, and he just looks at it and he can't figure out what it is. Mm-hmm. And then it's just little things like that. And then finally, once the carriage ride is a bit long, and she's in there with Lady Merdina, that's the Wicked Witch, her brother, and then her son, supposedly, which there's a story behind that too, and then her lady's maid, which is a very young girl, young and timid. And Lorna can tell by the way the kids are acting that these two young people are acting that they've been mistreated and everything. So by the time they get to the keep, Lorna's asking everybody to use their cell phone because she's going to call the authorities because these children have been mistreated. And nobody knows what she's asking for. They're looking at her like she's crazy, So finally she asks Gunn the date, and he tells her the date. So she passes out. So that's how she initially handles it.
There's a lot to love about just passing out.
Yes.
This is just too much. I just can't. It's too much.
Yeah, Gunn, of course, she just finally went into information overload and passes out. And of course, Gunn is gallant, and he scoops her up, and his man at arms comes up and said, "This isn't the one I got for you to marry. Are you want to consider this one too?" So.
Oh, it sounds like so much fun, and that's all part of the Time to Love a Highlander series.
Yes, it is the next to the last book.
So we only get one more.
One more after this one, yeah.
Well, I've loved this. The stakes for this entire series have been so high and so clear, and I love reading every time about what is the setup that gets I guess the woman
And
thrown back
how
in
it,
time.
whether they stay or whether they go, and whether they tell
Yeah.
him, whether they don't. So yeah.
Whether he's going to live more than 15 minutes after they get there too.
Exactly.
Some of the-
Exactly. Sometimes they don't, sometimes the heroine has to save them. So
Oh, awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to this one and also to the last book in this series.
thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure to write them. I've really
Oh, good.
enjoyed it. I'm gonna be sad to leave them behind.
Yeah, there is always that feeling when it ends, right?
Yeah, it's like moving away from family that the kind of family you really like to want to be around too. So.
Well, Marie, you had a book come out the week before last week.
Yeah.
And it's the second book in the Love's Addiction series, and it's A Governess to Protect.
Right.
Did I get it all right? Yay! Okay.
So yes, I was excited for it to come out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we missed having a chance to talk to you then, so I'm so glad that you could jump on and talk to us this week. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Okay, so my story, A Governess to Protect, of course, book number 2. The Love's Addiction series is just, it kind of follows the same characters. So in book number 1, it talks about Maxie, who is the, I think she was the cousin to the heroine in book number 1. And so
that's a wallflower to protect?
Yeah, that was a wallflower to love. And this
wallflower to love.
So yeah, and so this one now it's Maxie's story, and so she's been a governess for a lord and lady, and the gal, don't ask me their names right now. But anyway, I know, right? How many books later I've already gone through before I did that one last. But he dies. And so, of course, this is a Victorian. They're waiting for Metropolitan Police to, do their job and find out who killed, because it was a murder. So who killed him? And the lady, so-and-so. Anyway, Maxie's boss, her employer. So she is now desperate. I want to find whoever killed my husband has the family heirloom ring.
Oh.
And she thinks it's his younger brother. Of course, back in those days, relatives, wanted the title and they would do anything to get it, kind of thing. So she sends her governess and another maid, another servant to go. She goes, here's where I think he's at. I want you to go find him and do some investigating. And of course, Maxie's never been a detective, doesn't know how to be a detective, but she's read books. So she's like, oh, we can do this. So
it's like the equivalent of true crime podcasts.
Right. So it's like, so they of course have to go into disguise because, I'm the governess and I'm looking for, you're not going to tell everybody that. So they think they find him, and his name is Nash, and he's an opera singer. Now, I know that's not written a lot at all. I have never read a hero that's an opera singer. But I love men who have great singing voices, so I just had to write hero. Of course, Phantom of the Opera was my favorite. But anyway, so they find him, but he doesn't go by the brothers by the name. He goes by Nash. And so she's not for sure he's the right one, but all of the leads that they found have led him to there. Mm-hmm. So he's a charmer. He's a very, charmer. He's very seductive. And so he realizes that she might be onto something, but it's not him. But he doesn't want her knowing who he really is. And so, of course, his idea is, okay, let's charm her, seduce her, so that she forgets what she's supposed to be doing, kind of thing. And
well, he's a very confident fella.
I know. Oh, he's a ladies' man. And of course, she's a governess, so she doesn't have a lot of experience with flirting with men and having them think she's attractive and, things like that. So yeah, she will fall easily for him, but she will fight it, of course. And but so he realized that the only way to prove his innocence is to take her with him. And what happens to the maid is kind of funny because he has a manservant, and they decide to drug the drink of the maid so she passes out, and so he can finally get to charm seduce the governess. Anyway, Maxie. So
He's going to redeem himself, right? Because there's
yeah, no, he does
nefarious stuff that
he does, because once he takes her with him, they go on a ship. So you'll see on the book cover, they're on a ship, and there's a lot of chapters while they're on this ship, and that is when he redeems himself. He is really the sweet guy who wants to care for her, who cares for others, and yeah, he really is. But it's now trying to find. They need to work together, and to try to find who really killed his brother. Even though most of the story she kind of doubts him, because like you says there at the beginning, it's like, you lied about this, you lied about that, you tried to trick, you tried to seduce me, so she still kind of doubts him for a while, but she does finally, she finally starts to believe in, and they fall in love, of course. But it's the mystery and the suspense of what happens during the book of how they finally get to where, from point A to point B. So yeah.
So you said Phantom of the Opera was your favorite. Did you have somebody in mind that you based your hero on?
Okay, so clear back when I had this idea, I was the Antonio Banderas fan.
Oh,
yeah. This was clear back in his like Zorro days or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But he has a beautiful singing voice. So that's when I first wrote this story. Was my first draft was clear back in those days. But Phantom of the Opera, like I said, I decided to make him an opera singer. And of course, Gerard Butler, Phantom of the Opera, is what did it for me. So, yeah.
I love it when there's a real life person behind the idea of a hero, because I think it's like there's something about picturing, and you have a voice to go with the character then too. So.
Yeah, when I was cleaning it up and getting it ready for Dragonblade, it was Gerard Butler. That I had him. It wasn't Antonio anymore. Sorry, Antonio. But
he did Puss in Boots, didn't he?
Huh?
He's the voice of Puss in Boots, isn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, so he's always Puss in Boots in my head. Like I have to work to get him there.
Yeah, he's
a little too fuzzy,
He's a funny guy, yeah. But no, in this story, like I said, when I finally was getting the finishing touches to it and doing and finally getting it ready, it was Gerard Butler as the opera singer.
Well, that sounds like so much fun. And there's one more of those, and it's up on pre-order now.
One more coming. Yeah, this is only 3 books in this series, and the next one's coming out in June, and that's A Maiden to Remember.
Yeah, the cover for that one's gorgeous too. I got that just
I love the covers. Dragonblade makes the best covers, I swear.
Yes. Amen. Mm-hmm.
And speaking of gorgeous covers, Aviva, this is your first Dragonblade book, and it's the first book in the series. And the cover for this one is Love and Literature, which is also the title of the series as well. The cover is just lovely.
I love it.
The series logo, I guess is the right word for it.
Yeah, they did a great job.
I love it. So can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Yeah, so it takes place in 1861, so mid-Victorian. And it's around the time where women's education was secondary education. Women were starting to demand secondary education. So it's a really interesting time because the rise of ladies' colleges in Victorian England. And the heroine is she's she's always loved to learn. She's a bookworm, but when she was growing up, in Dartmoor, her father was a vicar. Well, they experienced tragedy in the family, but when her brother was young, she had to resort to like pressing her ear to the door to listen to his lessons, or sit in the corner doing her needlework, trying to absorb his lessons, because the father didn't think that a woman needed to learn Latin or the classics. So she taught herself, and she would do her brother's like lessons, the work that the father gave him to do, because the brother was kind of reluctant. So she's self-taught, and then but tragedy strikes and she loses her family. And when her father dies, she's left with the father. The siblings die. When the father eventually dies, he's the vicar. So the parsonage goes to the new vicar, and then
there's nowhere to live either.
Yeah, they employ her as the governess. And so now she's basically a servant in her own home. But luckily she gets an invitation from her aunt, who was estranged from her, to go to London. So she's kind of skeptical about that, because she's like, she hasn't had interaction with this aunt since her mother died. And there's a reason for why the aunt brings her in. But so she does go to London, and she doesn't want to stay with the aunt. She doesn't want to be a poor relation. She wants to work, but she doesn't want to be a governess. And that's kind of plays into, trying to show the they had so few options.
Yeah.
But she does see an ad for this in the newspaper for a pupil teacher. That's what they used to call them. You could be you study for free at the college, and then you could also teach.
Like a graduate TA. Kind of
yeah,
thing.
and since it's like a TA today, exactly. So since she has a bit of Latin and Greek, and has read the classics and everything, because she's been listening to her brother's lessons and teaching herself and doing his work, she goes to apply for that, and she does get the job. But because there were no women that were just trying to educate women in second education, that the teachers were males. They volunteered. There were also a lot of men who were trying to help advance women's education. They believed in it. And the hero of the story, Byron Thomas, so my heroine is Violet Greyson, and the hero is Byron Thomas. So he teaches at a boys' school, and the principal of the boys' school, his wife runs the ladies' college. So she gets him to come and teach a course in the classics, and then Violet is his assistant. But Violet isn't a wallflower. She's very feisty, strong, opinionated, and she wants that equal education. And he's more reserved about it, realizing there's a lot of resistance in society. And so they kind of clash over what should be taught and what. And she just can't seem to stop. She likes to state her opinion, and he's more of he's the teacher type. And then they have this attraction, and he's got his own issues. He grew up, his father was abusive to his mother, even though they were very wealthy, and he wanted to always be a perfect husband and father, but then his wife had died, and their baby died. So he became kind of, closed off. Yeah. And when he meets Violet, she's the first woman who kind of, he's felt attracted to or felt anything for, but he's Victorian, kind of reserved, and he knows that he's very resistant because he's the teacher. He knows it's not appropriate. He wants to try to keep that, they have certain behaviors in mid-Victorian that were quite conservative. It's a little different from the Regency era, and they really believed in, that he wanted to keep that distance, but he can't really. So there is a bit of hot and cold going on, because he fails to keep the distance, but he constantly tries to go back to it. And then added to that is he's engaged to the principal's daughter, because he's not in love with her or anything. She's very beautiful but very shallow, and but because he had closed off his heart, and he was like, he's not going to do love again. He was going to be engaged to her, because that was going to advance his career. He would be the principal of the boys' school, which is a very prestigious boys' school, when the principal retired. So, well, the headmaster, they call them. They don't call them principals. So the headmaster. So that's the added layer in there. And
instead of advancing his career, not being her fiance would probably do bad things. I
yeah.
would
So
imagine.
a lot of he's you know, kind of locked into that, and he also doesn't want to. A whole bunch of stuff happens that I don't want to give away, but you know, so it kind of becomes a triangle, and a whole bunch of stuff happens with that. So you've got the school and their dynamic in the classroom, and you know, the dynamic with the principal and the principal's daughter and his marriage. So, and then the aunt that she's has to go back. She has to leave the school and go back to her aunt and help her aunt, because I don't want to give it all away, but a whole bunch of stuff happens.
No, because we want to find out ourselves. Yeah. I love the kind of almost Yentl like feeling of somebody who of a couple that's intellectually paired, and then a pairing that is not intellectually matched. And I love a story where the reason that they stay away from each other are like really good reasons. And in this case, they're really good reasons for them not to partner up. They're really good reasons for him to pull back. And I think the tension in those kind of stories is just so compelling.
It was fun to write. Yeah. And interesting, because it's the research of that time. I mean, I loved researching about the ladies' colleges, and it's a very interesting time. These women used their own money to fund these colleges. They didn't have any help, a lot of resistance, just to get the secondary education started for women. And they were the reason that the universities opened eventually. It took a long time, but you know, open to women. They fought really hard. So you know, I think it's nice to kind of pay homage to them as well.
Yeah. I love that idea, and then I love the idealism that has to go behind supporting too.
And then the rest of the series, the characters, they'll reappear. I mean, you can read them separately, but you know, Violet has a best friend at the school, and she'll be in the second series, and you'll see, Violet will reappear again, and they'll reappear, but you know, they can read them separately, but they'll make their appearances again.
No, but I love when they show back up again, and then you get a chance to see the people that you've already gotten attached to.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most fun parts about reading in a series.
All connected, the characters.
Is revisiting that. Yeah, I love that. Well, awesome. And there are 3 more books in the series?
2 more.
2 more books in the series.
Total,
3 books total. Yeah. Oh, awesome.
Yeah, 3 total. Yeah, 3 total.
Yeah. Well, it's very exciting. I'm looking forward to that one too. Well, ladies, it was delightful to talk to you today. We used all our time talking about books, which was fantastic. We missed a chance to talk to Jenny. We'll catch up with her sometime in the future. Her book is The Secret of a Covert Lord, and it's book 2 in the Covert Ladies Academy, and it's got a gardener in. So I want to talk to. I'm going to talk to her about that. So I'm looking forward to that in the future when we have a chance to catch up. In the meantime, Dragonblade is running it's not even a sale because the books are free. It's a promotion. It's a spring spectacular. So if you
I downloaded all of them.
There's a bunch of them.
Yes.
So if you go to the website, you can find it on our Facebook page, but the easiest place is to go to the website and click on the bright yellow banner that says Dragonblade Spring Spectacular on the top of the thing, and it will take you to a page that has all the novellas that they've been in other collections before. Mm-hmm. Some have been in the Halloween collection, some have been in the holiday collections. There was one that was an Easter story specifically. So there are dozens of books there that you can find and get for free, and that runs until Monday. This will air on Friday. That runs until Monday, and then there is also a party on Monday. So if you are around and on Facebook, it would be a good time to pop in, because the authors that have books in the promotion will be popping in, talking about their stories. And
I'll be there.
There you go. So, ladies, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us today. I really appreciate it. This is your reminder, if you're watching, that Dragonblade books. I'm going to get myself like the equivalent of a verbal stamp, so I don't have to say this every week, but it's true every week. Yeah. Dragonblade books are the very best deal on their pre-order period and release, because it's like cheaper than bad coffee. So why wouldn't you?
Exactly.
And if you don't manage to do it during that time period, then you can always read in Kindle Unlimited, which is how I'm reading just about everything right now, because it's an easy way to try somebody new to you, somebody you haven't tried before, and see how you feel about it. So thanks so much, ladies. We will be back here at the same time next week. I appreciate you taking the time to talk.
It's wonderful being here.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you.